Hey guys, I've been meaning to make this video for about 2 weeks, and every time I go to make it, something else comes up, or by the time I go back where I got time to make it, there's other news or there's other things I feel led to make a video about. So things have progressed with what I'm about to tell you. A little interesting, but we're gonna get ahead and cut right to the chase here. So Tanner Cross, an elementary school teacher in Loudoun County, Virginia, was put on administrative leave while the school board tried to fire him. His offense was this: he refused to tell little boys that they were girls and little girls that they were boys. You see, the school board had this woke liberal agenda called Diversity, Inclusion, and Equity Curriculum. And if you look at the acronym, it spells DIE. And they're literally killing our kids with this garbage they're spewing out. And this man, this elementary school teacher, Tanner Cross, a devout Christian man, told the school board, "I love my children too much to lie to them." And all his friends and all the students and the parents love this guy. And they say this guy is for real. He does love his children. Him and his wife are devout Christians, and they were unable to have children. And they seen it as a sign from God that he was to love his school children like they were his own. And he puts in tons of extra time, overtime that he doesn't get paid for. He ministers to these kids. He's just a genuinely good Christian man. And they want to fire him because he would not bow down to their edict that he must teach girls that they're boys and boys that they're girls. You see, what they're trying to say is, oh, these kids can choose their identity. They can be identity fluid, gender fluid. One day they could be a girl, one day they could be a boy. Or a boy can feel like a girl and say he's a girl all the time. And he refused. And the article didn't say if he was a Protestant Christian or a Catholic Christian, but it echoes, if I can get this up, it echoes what Pope Francis said on World Youth Day 2016. He was speaking to some Polish priests, and this subject came up about gender fluidity. And he said this: "Today, schools are teaching children, exclamation, that everyone can choose their own sex. And why is this being taught? Because their textbooks are chosen by the people and institutions that give money. This is ideological colonization promoted by very influential nations. This is terrible. This is terrible." So the good news is that Tanner Cross took this all the way to the Virginia Supreme Court, and they ruled in his favor and told the school board that you cannot take away his religious freedom. That's our First Amendment. You cannot take away his freedom of speech. So the school board was defeated. And it's interesting to me to watch what's going on in the country today. You know, the Bible says all things work together for good for those who love God and are called according to his purpose. So when this pandemic came and the Democrat Party used it to their advantage to shut down everything and take tyrannical control over the population in our country, most kids had to do virtual schools. So a lot of parents got to see what they were being taught. And not only were they being taught this garbage, but they were being taught racism, critical race theory, that tells black children they're victims and there's nothing they can do about it, and white children that they're racist and there's nothing they can do about it. It's a horrible, horrible, disgusting theory. And And you've seen these videos go viral where African American parents are telling their school board they do not want this to be taught. And you see these school boards are so arrogant. These are elected officials, and they pay no mind to these teachers, to these parents. And the worst offender I see all the time in Orlando here, or Orange County School Board, this woman, Teresa Jacobs, she's the head of the school board, but she's like a lifetime politician. She never had a real job. She's always sucking off the fat of the public, the taxpayers' money, and she doesn't even have children in school. So why is she even up there? And I see this one nurse, an emergency room nurse, speaking to her and disagreeing with their policy, and this woman didn't even look up at her. She's just looking at her notes, like ignoring her. And then when the buzzer went off, she said, "Oh, your time is up." This is the arrogance of these school boards. But the good news is, in Loudoun County, where Tanner-Cross won, they're having a recall election on the school board, and it looks like all of those liberals will be recalled, and they'll be replaced by conservative men and women that want to teach our children American values, Christian Judeo values. And you see all across the country, there's going to be re-elections for these school boards. And people never paid attention to school board elections. Now they're paying attention. Now the sleeping giant has awoken. But like I said, things changed. This was going to be all positive. But then yesterday I'm reading and tonight I'm watching these school boards, these liberal school boards, got a hold of the Biden administration, and they're calling these parents terrorists, saying they need help. So the FBI is getting involved with school boards now. Yeah, you can't make this stuff up. Like I said in my video I made this morning, the Democrats and the communists, they rule from the top down, where republicanism and conservatism has the Catholic teaching of subsidiarity, where you rule, or not rule, but you manage and you legislate from the smallest possible level, the lowest level. And this is just another example of top-down, tyrannical dictates. They're going to get the FBI, the Justice Department is already looking into these school boards, because these school boards are losing control because parents are getting involved. And one thing they hate is free speech. The tyrants, the communists, they hate free speech. And these parents, they get up and speak, but they don't get much time. They only get about 5 minutes of free speech. But it's always one-sided. It's always the parents against the school boards. So the good news is the FBI don't have that much manpower to go to every school board. So we just need to recall or wait for the election, and people need to get involved. And a lot of people don't show up to these elections. You get one big church voting for one person, that person's going to win. You get two churches, and Protestants and Catholics, we need to unite on this. We're united in our values. So we need to unite on this and get all the churches to vote. Like in my town, we voted for a pastor of a non-denominational church in town. His kid wrestled with my kid. He's a great man of God. He's a great pastor. He's not Catholic, but he has the same Christian values we have. And he's the mayor of our town. So you can do this because his church is really big, and voted for him, And you just got to knock on doors and explain to the people, or put a table in front of a church. Go to your Baptist church. Baptists are real conservative, We need to work together, take over the school boards. And we did this, People don't understand why so many blue-collar working-class guys like Trump, because Trump was the epitome of subsidiarity republicanism. And, everything that the Democrats said he wasn't. And then they wanted him to be a fascist. They wanted him to have top-down mandates, and he refused. Now we have a fascist in office, and we're run by people that are top-down tyrannical. But the way we got Trump elected was, I can think off the top of my head, 6 guys that voted for him that never voted in their lives. 50-year-old men, like blue-collar guys, because they knew the corruption. They had conservative common sense. A lot of them, I would say, they were like, oh, Republicans, Democrats are all liars. And I was like, dude, you're conservative and you don't even know it yet. And the reason they didn't know it because we didn't have too many that really lived up to the conservative values. I mean, they've seen, for years, Republicans and Democrats sending their jobs overseas to China. And the argument was, well, if we allow China to see capitalism at work, they'll want to be free. And instead, it worked against us. We lost hundreds of thousands of jobs that went over to China. And they're forcing our actors and our athletes to bow down to them. You'll never hear LeBron James say a bad word about China. You'll never hear Mark Cuban say a bad word about China. I mean, there's a literal genocide of the Uyghur Muslims, the Muslims over there. And no one's saying nothing because they got so much money tied up in China. So they have a kind of a capitalist system, but they have total control of it. So they allow the billionaires they want, they allow the millionaires they want, but most people work for nothing. Most people work like slaves over there. And everything they say is monitored, everything they do is monitored. And that's the kind of government they're trying to form over here, where, yeah, we'll allow capitalism, but we're going to have total control. And so what we seen it on both sides. You had, of course, everyone knows Joe Biden's son got that $1.5 billion deal from China. We know Dianne Feinstein's husband makes a ton of money in China. Nancy Pelosi's husband makes a ton of money in China. But, also on the Republican side, Mitch McConnell's wife owns a shipping company. And the Chinese Communist Party provides the crew and provides the work, shipping back and forth from China to America. So McConnell's compromised by China too. And then you get one politician, non-politician, come in and say China's our enemy, and all the blue-collar guys start listening. Oh, finally a guy that gets it. So Trump says, okay, you're going to charge us 20% tariffs for what we bring over here? How much are we charging them? Nothing? They're charging us 20% for what we're sending, and we're charging them nothing? No, we're going to charge them 25%. And we started beating them at the trade war. And we brought 600,000 manufacturing jobs over here, blue-collar jobs back. And now I see, just recently I read in the paper, Biden's easing up these tariffs slowly. He's going to give the Chinese what they want eventually. But we've seen it, even on the southern border. You had the Republicans, they talked about the problem, but they didn't want to solve the problem because all the rich Republican donors wanted the cheap labor. The Democrats surely didn't want to solve the problem because they seen they could make these people dependent on welfare and they'll be permanent Democrat voters. Trump comes in and solves the problem. And we see that over and over with oil, with, I can name 30 things that Trump did based on the Catholic teaching of subsidiarity. So I'm telling you this, and you might say, why is he talking about Trump? He's getting off track. I'm telling you this because he had impossible odds to win. He went against 15 all-star Republicans, every one of them, Marco Rubio, Mike Huckabee, Ben Carson. He went against top, even Jindal. I remember Jindal, he was a favorite for a while. Jeb Bush, he was a great governor of Florida, believe it or not, He went against top quality guys and he ran all through them. And then he was like 100 to 1. There was 100 to 1 odds that he could beat Hillary, and he beat her. Why? Because he awoke the sleeping giant, the working class guy that wasn't involved. Now working class people are getting involved at the local level. So we get involved at the local level. And, we still got 2 more years where the Democrats, or maybe a year and a half before we get to the midterm elections. Democrats could do a lot of damage. But again, all things work together for good. Like the late Rush Limbaugh used to say, Democrats try to shut up conservatives. They want no opposition. That's why they got rid of free speech in all the college campus. That's why they shut us down on Facebook, YouTube. They shut us down because they know their ideas and their arguments are weak. But Republicans, we should want people to hear their ideas. So people are reminded how terrible they are. And unfortunately, we're going through a lot of pain because they're in charge. But people are waking up. I know people personally that voted Democrat, and they're sorry. I know people personally that voted for Joe Biden, and they're sorry. I mean, no matter how the media tries to spin it, the mainstream media tries to spin it, People can see with their own eyes the price of food, the price of gas. The freedoms are losing every day. So this is going to be the biggest upset. Not upset. I mean, people are expecting Republicans to take over, but the biggest change. I mean, I'm predicting 60 seats in the House Republicans are going to take, and we're going to take back the Senate for sure. And then Biden does nothing. We stop everything. We stop everything. Because even though some of these Republicans, like I said, McConnell, they're compromised, one thing they like is power. And the only way they're going to stay in power is if they stop this tyrant in the White House. So the good news is people are waking up, you know. And no matter what, we're Catholics. So our God reigns. You know, we don't trust in Trump. We don't trust in DeSantis. We don't even trust in Ronald Reagan when he was alive. We trust in Jesus Christ alone. And we may be in a country where our leaders are totally corrupt. And we may even have corrupt leaders in our church from time to time. But Jesus Christ is the King of our church. And Jesus Christ promised us that the gates of hell will not prevail. What does that mean? That means the doctrines that he passed down to the apostles and they passed down to our church fathers who passed them down to us today are never changing. They won't change. They'll stay pure. And what else does that mean? Is we'll be here. America may not be here. We may give in to the communists from within and may longer not be here. You know, Protestant churches are always splitting up. They may not be here. But the Catholic Church will always be here. We have that promise. Catholic Church was started by Jesus Christ in 32 AD, and it's been growing ever since. Even now, we've grown like from 1.2 billion to 1.3 billion in the last 10 years. We'll be here when Jesus comes back. That's a promise. That's a guarantee. So don't let all this politics get you upset. Please be involved. Vote pro-life. You know, get involved in your school board. Like I said, organize churches to elect good conservatives to run your school board that actually teach your kids how to read and write, you know, and not all this crazy gender fluid crap. You know, get involved, stay involved, vote pro-life. If you're spending your money, spend it on pro-life companies. You know, I always say, go to realestateforlife.org if you're buying or selling real estate. But above all, just trust in Jesus and get excited about him, because every man will fail you, you know. Every politician is just a man. You know, we vote for the best ones that we see, the ones that are going to put in pro-life judges. And you see, the Texas abortion ban was upheld because Trump put in three pro-life judges in the Supreme Court. So they let that abortion ban stand. And it wasn't hard, because these judges look at the Constitution and see what it means and say what it means. You know, they're not activist judges like the liberals. And that's what we need. We need leaders that'll put in judges that read the law and not make the law. There's no litmus test other than judge according to the law, not according to your own political beliefs like the liberals do. But, you know, I think you should be encouraged. People are waking up, and we're still a nation of the people, by the people, and for the people. So us people can change it. And I'm telling you, people are getting fed up with the tyrants that are running things right now. So God bless, and stay Catholic.